The next speaker, Dr. Marine Punan, will join us in few seconds. I think everywhere net connection or internet is the problem today. Maybe because of second Saturday holiday for everyone. അല്ലെ നെറ്റ് ഒത്തിരി ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ദിവസമായിരിക്കും ഇന്ന് സെക്കൻഡ് സാറ്റർഡേ ആയതുകൊണ്ട് ഈവൻ ഓൾ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ആസ് വെൽ എസ് സ്കൂൾ എല്ലാം തന്നെ ക്ലോസ്ഡ് ആണല്ലോ. അതുകൊണ്ടായിരിക്കും കണക്ടിവിറ്റി പ്രോബ്ലം ഇസ് ദർ. ബട്ട് സ്റ്റിൽ she will join in few seconds. Marine is Director and Clinical Supervisor of Rita Peshwaria Center for Autism, Pathanamthitta. You would have heard of her. She is very good in ABA services. Yes, Marine has joined. Arpita, are you ready to introduce Marine to the participants?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Marine. Yes.
Ma'am, we can't
Yes,
hear.
Arpita, you can start.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible very much.
Can I just present my...
Yes, before you begin, Marine, Arpita of First B.Ed Special Education will introduce you to the participants.
Okay, thank you.
Just 1 minute. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Yes, Arpita, you begin.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good session so far. We listened to the first session. I'm on to the second one. It's a privilege for me to introduce Dr. Marine Punan to you. She has a wonderful, amazing list of credentials. I'm just going to briefly mention her education. After her nursing from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, she went on to do her MSc in Counseling Psychology at Martin Luther Christian University in Shillong. After which she did her MPhil and PhD from the same. And after that, she has a lot of professional teaching and advising experiences. She's been a faculty, research guide, lecturer, curricular coordinator, both in Kerala and in other states of India. And her professional clinical experience include as a counseling psychologist in Karipul Hospital in Kottayam, and then member of Family Welfare Committee, family counselor. She's a registered behavior technician and a school counselor and consultant. She had worked in 2014 till present at Marian Senior Secondary School. She's a clinical supervisor, remedial trainer for learning disabilities, and along with these, she has presented her research papers and conducted many training programs. There's one in parents training program for children with behavior problems and ADHD, and then leadership training camps for teenager and various other conferences where she's been invited as speaker and where she's attended. It's a privilege to have you here, ma'am, and we welcome you to this session. And so I hand over to ma'am as she will be talking to us about effective mental health on academics and school life. Over to
Thank
Dr.
Thank you, Arpita. Thank you so much for your good words. I have to present my PPT. Elizabeth, ma'am.
Yes.
I have to...
Marine, you are not audible. Can you increase your audio bit?
1 second. Am I okay now? Is it...
Yes.
Okay. Is this okay? Yeah.
Okay, Marine. Okay.
When I want to show my slides, but can you please tell me how I am supposed to be presenting, sharing my slides because I can't
Ma-
do
Ma'am,
it
on
from
the
here.
left
Excuse me, ma'am.
side of your screen,
Yes.
right side of your screen, there's a present now.
Yes, I have it.
And then the screen will pop up. You just click and then you present.
They are saying your entire screen, a window, a tab.
You can
Which
pick
one?
your entire screen.
Okay. And now?
And then you click present.
No. There is no present now. I mean, I want to present my slide, but I'm not able to share.
See, Marin, you have below the screen to your right corner, there is one statement we present now with an upward arrow mark.
Yes, yes, I
You
have
click
that.
on that,
Yes, I clicked.
you will get in your entire screen a window, a tab.
Yes, I have it.
You
I
click
have
on
it.
that window.
Okay. Yeah.
Then from there you select what you want to share. Select means on top of the file you keep your what is it, cursor, and then you click it. That's all.
I'm trying to do that. There is that meet, but I cannot get and I can't choose from any other files except this. I'm not able to choose another file.
Then the entire screen option might be easier.
I do.
Otherwise you can take even entire screen.
Sure. Can you share from there? I have sent the slide. Is it
Yes,
possible?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I can. We can do that. You do one thing. You send it to my mail ID. You know my mail ID, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you sent already?
I have sent it in your WhatsApp, ma'am.
WhatsApp. Okay, WhatsApp you have sent. But
Ah,
if you could send it to your mail, to my mail ID, it will be easy for me
yeah.
to project.
Okay, I'm just sending it right away. Because I'm not able to select my file from here.
Okay, you send it to my mail ID.
Sure.
ELIZAA1959 @gmail.com.
Yeah. ELI is it a?
ELIZAA
Okay.
1959 @gmail.com.
19.
59 @gmail.com.
Okay. Eliza. Okay. Yeah. I'm sending. Sorry for the delay, but I'm not able to share from
Dharmi,
here.
you can help.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Did you send the PPT, ma'am?
She has
Yeah,
sent.
I sent that, but uh, did you get it?
No, ma'am.
You didn't?
Received, ma'am. Received.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you please present from there?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
I can see that. So you will change the slides, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Today, my topic is effects of mental health on academics and school life. Next slide, please. So, when we talk about the effects of mental health, let us try to understand what is mental health as such. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, but still, just for the sake of explanation, let me talk about this. That mental health is not just that you are not mentally sick, but if you are a mentally healthy person, you should be able to maximize, you should be able to use your abilities to the full. You should be able to cope with your normal stresses. You should be able to make a productive contribution to the society. You should be able to be creative and productive and also generally contribute to the society. So it's not just that, okay, I don't have a mental illness. That is not mental health. Mental health is that you should be able to use your ability, you should be able to cope with your stresses normally, you should be productive, you should be also able to contribute to the society. Then you can say you are a mentally healthy person. So the same is applicable to the mental health of a child. When it comes to mental health of a child, it is the overall well-being and optimal development of the child, where he has proper development in the emotional sector, in the behavior, in the social relationship, as well as in the intellectual development. So it is not only that he's able to write ABCD or he's able to answer questions or he's able to score marks, but he should be able to also have a proper emotional development. He should be able to have a proper behavior, able to have appropriate behaviors, knows what to do, when to do, how to do, according to his age, and also he should be able to maintain proper social connections with people for his age. Then you can say that the child is mentally healthy. Next slide, please. So, what is positive mental health? When a child is able to have his talents develop fully according to his potential, then you can say there is positive mental health. So, they should be able to cultivate their abilities to the highest level, meaning they should be given enough opportunities to they should be given enough opportunities to develop it to the fullest. Then you can say there is positive mental health. Okay, next slide, please. So, when you talk about mental health, let us talk about the mental health problems in children. So, mental health problems can affect a student's energy level, his concentration, his dependability, his mental ability, and optimism. So, if a child is not able to concentrate properly, excuse me, uh, if he is not optimistic enough, then that is going to hinder his academic performance in school, his future prospects in job. Also, it will affect his social development. Uh, in a community, earlier in olden statistics, it used to say around 7% of the child population is affected with mental issues. But now the recent statistics says that somewhere between 20 to 10 percent of the normal population of children tend to have mental health issues. So they may be struggling with one or the other mental health problems. So the statistics shows that more number of children are identified with mental health issues in the current scenario in the community. So that means about 20% of our population may get affected and they become less productive, less effective in their future if we do not take care of the mental health issues of the children at the beginning. Next slide, please. One literature review, very recent literature review from Agvanos in 2020, they made a longitudinal study. They studied children right from the age of 3 years and they followed them up till the age of 20. And as they studied throughout these 17 years, what they noticed was something very important for each one of us to think. That is that if they have found any kind of behavioral or emotional problem for a child who is 3 years old, and if you follow them up till the age of 12 years, most probably they are not performing to the standards in academics. They are struggling with academic issues also. So that means if you see a child who is excessively crying, fearful, showing some behavioral problems at the age of 3, you may anticipate some academic issues at the age of 12 if you are not careful or if you don't take care of this child. And then again, from the age of 12, if any children is reported with any mental health problems, at the age of 16 or 17, they often end up having lesser marks or sometimes even school dropouts. And many of them find it difficult to go for higher education. So you see, a mental health problem tends to affect them throughout their life. So the most important thing we have to understand is that it means that these kind of problems need to be noticed at preschool age. At preschool age means in the nursery age, and educational practices, the way we are giving them educational support should be adjusted and adequate treatment should be given to promote the transition to the school environment and completion of the compulsory school. And so that means special education has a very vital role to support these children right from the beginning so that they will not end up having mental issues. They will go smoothly, they will go through their school education and they will excel in life if you give them right kind of support as and when it is needed if they face any challenge during their school time. So special education has a very, very important role in helping, supporting children right from the early age so that they can be saved from many mental health issues that will prevent them from leading a fruitful and productive life in the future. And another important thing we saw is that parental education and the income also are strong predictors of psychological well-being. Children whose parents are educated also tend to do well and their psychological well-being also seems to be better. And also children from higher economic strata also seems to have more psychological well-being. Next slide, please. So now, effect of mental health problems. The core issue of our discussion today is that the mental health problem reduces the quality of life among students. So mental health problems will affect them through and through if they are not taken care of at the right time. So that can affect their academic achievement, physical health also, because when these children are tensed, when they are upset, when they are anxious, it is going to affect their physical health. They tend to have stomachache, they tend to have vomiting, they have fever, they have always getting cough and other things because their immunity problems are there. So physical health is affected, then satisfaction of the college experience. They may not feel so happy to be in the college if they are not having proper mental health. and it will affect their relationship with friends, and it affects their relationship with family members, so it is going to affect them socially and future employment, and as well as their financial status because they are lesser earning capacity. So all these things, their future, their earning capacity, their job, their social life, their academic life, many of these areas are affected if they end up having mental health issues, which in general reduce the quality of life among children. Next slide, please. So the most common mental disorders in childhood can be classified into two: internalized problems and externalizing problems. So internalizing problems are generalized anxiety disorder. Mainly internalizing problems comes under anxiety disorders. Then panic attack, phobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, psychosomatic illnesses, all these comes under the internalizing problems. And externalizing problems are attention deficit hyperactive disorder, conduct disorder, opposition defiant disorders, substance abuse, and so on. These are some of the most common disorders, and that is what I am mentioning here. So these can affect the children, as you see in the day-to-day life in the school. Some common things which we see in schools. Next, please. So who are the vulnerable group? Who are these children? Those 10 to 20% of children who may have more chances for having mental health problems. Who are they? Whom should we focus to? So, children having intellectual disabilities or mental illness are one target group who may end up having more comorbidities of mental health problems like mental retardation, autism, learning disability, ADHD, OCD. So, these children with developmental issues cannot, or they may find it very challenging to perform according to the academic standards of the normal school. So, because of too much of anxiety, not able to cope with the stress, not able to cope with the demands of the normal schooling, tend to have mental health problems. So, they are highly vulnerable to develop more mental health problems, more comorbidities. Again, children with anxiety and depression, as it is right from the beginning, or children with mood disorders and schizophrenia, also find it challenging to perform in the school. Then also other things like physical disabilities, physical ailments, social problems. These children also tend to have other challenges to have performance in academics, and they also develop mental health problems. Who are they? Children coming from family problems, who have family problems at home, who are exposed to domestic violence, who are children who went through child abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and whose parents have addiction problems like drugs, alcohol, and all that, or those children who have locomotor disabilities, blindness, hearing impairment, speech pathologies, and children from the refugees or children from the lower socio-economic status. All these are the other vulnerable group who tend to develop or who have more chances to develop mental health issues. So, as a health person, when you are going through the school population, we need to give special consideration to these children because they are more vulnerable, more susceptible for mental health issues. Next slide, please. So again, children with learning disability or problems in learning and understanding compared with children of the same age are at increased risk of developing a mental health problem. Next, please. Next slide, please. Now, when I talk about mental health problems, I also feel that maybe I should explain a little bit of how to identify these mental health problems. As a health personnel, as an educator, when you go through the schools, how do I identify these anxiety disorders and other mental health problems? And what are the normal treatment which is done for these children for our knowledge sake? So anxiety disorders, all anxiety disorders happen because there is some damage in the brain at the limbic system and hippocampus. And Usually, anxiety disorders are associated with genetics, hereditary, and as well as environmental factors like too much of stressful environment. And I told you, like family problems, domestic violence, child abuse. So when they are exposed to too much of stressful environment, or if they have a hereditary history of anxiety disorders, then these children are susceptible for more mental health problems. Now, anxiety disorders are characterized by fear and worry or dread, and that will really affect their performance, and they become too much more than the usual fear and worry which any child will experience. So, this really makes them ineffective. Next slide, please. So anxiety disorders are seen like, the common anxiety disorder which you see is school refusal. Children you may see early in the preschool age when they go to school. All children will cry when their parents leave, but you can see that some children cry a lot, or some children will not stop crying even after a week. These children probably are having school, they have separation anxiety, they have school refusal, or some children, even after they grow up, also, even in kindergarten or in the primary school, they do not want to go to school. And when you ask, they may say, I'm worried that I will never see you again. That is separation anxiety. Or they may say, I'm worried the kids will laugh at me, so I'm not going to school. That is social anxiety. And sometimes children will say physical complaints like I cannot go to school because I have a stomach ache. That is psychosomatic problems. So stomach upset, nausea, headache, often these are all because of the anxiety itself, which will cause so many physical problems. In general, the treatment for all kinds of anxiety disorders is behavior therapy, which we normally do as exposure-based ERP, exposure and response prevention, or cognitive behavior therapies. These are the therapies which we do, and then we have parent-child and family intervention. Usually parent training programs are done, or some modification in the environment is done, and if necessary, some drugs are also given if it is not being tackled. So that is anxiety disorder. I hope you will be able to understand children going through too much of anxiety now. Next slide, please. Another important part is acute stress disorders. Children who are having too much of stress also find it difficult to cope with academics. So it is often because of some painful history in the past, and there is some trauma happened to the child. Maybe some death in the family, maybe some accident or some physical ailment or some very traumatic, painful incident that has affected the child. And in that case, they often tend to have some bad thoughts coming into their mind, and they just keep crying out of the blue. Or they don't want to think about it, but it just keeps coming into them, and they start remembering that. And avoidance also, they don't want to avoid, they don't want to go to that particular situation, they don't want to see some people, they are avoiding certain situations because of the stress disorder. And some negative moods, like they may have fear, guilt, shame, confusion. These kind of emotional and cognitive negative effects are seen in these children. And also they tend to just get jittery. They tend to get startled very fast, and they may not have enough sleep. They may see nightmares, and sometimes they are very aggressive and reckless. They cannot concentrate while sitting in the class. All these problems can be because of the past trauma, and it can cause stress disorders. Sometimes it may even lead to attention deficit also. Next slide, please. Next. Thank you. Another one is obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD is seen in many children with anxiety problems. So children typically experience obsessions or worries or fears of harm. Like, they may fear, they are scared of some deadly diseases. they are feared of sinning, they are the bad children, I did some sin, I may go to hell, or they are scared that they may get injured. These kind of thoughts repeatedly come into their mind, and they are always so scared and afraid. And just to remove that fear, they keep doing things, and that is called compulsion. So compulsion is to just remove that fear. So like, they keep washing their hands 100 times, or they keep counting something, or they're arranging things in some way, all just to neutralize their obsessional fear. Like if suppose some child is feared of COVID, they may start, wearing mask every time. They may even start wearing it in the night also, saying that I'm afraid of COVID, or will I have a COVID disease? They keep asking it 100 times. So this is all because that obsessive thoughts are coming into the child and making the child feel very scared and very anxious. And so if you remove this mask, or if you start asking the child to stop washing the hand, the child will start feeling very uneasy. The child may become aggressive, the child may become very restless, and this will interfere the academic and social function. So when the child is very restless, the child cannot concentrate, the child cannot do his homework, the child cannot relate to people, because he is too much preoccupied with the worries and the obsession, the fear, and all these rituals. So this is really affecting their academics. So what you have to do is to establish a comfortable relationship with the child, so that the child is able to talk about his obsession, his compulsion. He may be able to share his anxiety with you. And the treatment is usually cognitive behavior therapy, and sometimes drugs also are used, because sometimes therapies alone will not be sufficient to do the remedials for OCDs. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do you see this? Sorry, how do you know that this child is having obsessive compulsive disorder? By seeing the behavior, or when you observe the hands. If you see the hands are all raw, chapped hands because too much of washing, or when the child is spending too much time in the bathroom, or when the child is doing schoolwork he's taking long time to finish his schoolwork, or he may not even submit his schoolwork because he feels he hasn't done it perfectly, or he may keep on rubbing on the paper because he thinks that it's not enough. And then he may engage in repetitive behaviors, or keep on asking so many questions all the time, same thing again and again, or keep on checking or counting and doing some rituals very frequently. These are all symptoms that the child is probably having OCD. I'm not saying all these symptoms are seen in the child, but even one symptom you see means you may have to explore if the child is going through any OCD symptoms. Next slide, please. Next is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. All of you are very familiar with this. ADHD is a syndrome. It's a group of symptoms which have inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. There are 3 types of ADHD. One is the inattentive type, meaning they are not attentive, they are impulsive, but they are not hyperactive. And another type is only hyperactive. They are very hyperactive, and therefore very difficult to control these children. They have less concentration, and therefore their children are difficult to manage in the school. And then there is a combined type. Some children with hyperactive as well as inattentive. So some children keep on dreaming in the class, not attending, or some children are very hyperactive, difficult to control, again not attending the class. So they may have academic challenges, that is hyperactivity. So the treatment usually include drugs, some medication to improve their concentration, and parent training programs and behavior therapies, and some specific educational modification also is done to help children with ADHD. Next, please. Another issue is oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. this is again, if the children with ADHD is not properly handled, they may develop further into oppositional defiant disorder. So what happens in oppositional defiant disorder is that all this time ADHD is only with hyperactivity or not attending or impulsive. But now they started becoming rebellious against their authorities. Okay, so that means they become defiant, they become hostile, so they show certain symptoms. Like when you see hyperactivity, inattention, plus if you see like they lose temper, they are aggressive, they keep arguing with the adults, they defy adults, and they refuse to obey rules or deliberately try to annoy people, bully people, or blame others for his problems, and they become easily angered, very vindictive. All these are, and they lack social skills. They don't know how to make friends. They are so impulsive, or they are only self-centered. They don't know how to share. So these social skill issues also, all these will make them oppositional defiant disorder. So this is the characteristics, and that normally happens when the ADHD is not taken care of properly, especially in the family. And the treatment is that individual psychotherapy, means supportive therapy, where you are giving them importance to the self and making them feel that they are good enough. And then the family therapy, parent training programs, and sometimes you may give them drugs also to calm down and also to reduce, to improve their attention span. Next slide, please. Next is conduct disorder. That is the eldest in the family, I should say. ADHD is the younger one, then the middle is the ODD, and then comes the eldest brother. That is the conduct disorder. So, conduct disorder is much more serious. That is children against law. These are the children who definitely are troublemakers. They have recurrent or persistent pattern of breaking rules and behaviors that violates the right of others. Now it's not only breaking rules, but they are start aggressive with other people also. They steal, they lie, they break property, they destroy property, they show aggression towards people and animal. They may threaten them with a weapon, all this. They may break into somebody's house, they break open somebody's car, they steal things. So that is conduct disorder. So behavior impair functioning in relation. So these kind of behaviors they are going to be branded as troublemakers. They do not have empathy about the other person. They have very poor social skills for some time. But some people are very smooth talkers also. And at school and at work, they are troublemakers. So nobody will want to be friendly with them. And then the treatment is psychotherapy. That means behavior therapy is done, and parent training programs are done with very lot of supervision is necessary, and very difficult to change them also. Some of them who do not change or who still continue to have conduct disorder, after the age of 18, they are diagnosed as antisocial personality disorder. These are the kind of people who end up as criminals. They are going to jail. Many of these children in juvenile home also are coming with the issue of conduct disorder. So you see that early intervention at the level of ADHD might really save these children from criminal activities and juvenile homes if we could handle them properly. So child mental health is so important. Otherwise, this is going to affect them so much throughout their life. Next slide, please. So another area is depression or mood disorders for children. So symptoms of depression in children. It's very important that these children may not show all this violence. They may not be hyperactive, but you see they might be very silent. They might be sitting in the corner of the class without talking to anyone, or they are easily very sensitive. They may cry so fast, but they may not be challenging for anyone, but they are also going they are also going to have problems in life. So we need to identify these children with depression. Who are they, and what are the symptoms you would say? Frequent crying and bouts of sadness. These children tend to easily cry, and they may have always a sad face, feeling hopeless and worthless while they speak, and getting too much or too little sleep, and anxiety. Sometimes they are very angry. Small things make them very angry fast. And they are angry also. Sometimes they cry also very fast. And difficulty enjoying activities one used to like. So some children who used to be very happy and running around suddenly become very dull, very withdrawn, and they are no more interested in playing or going with other children. This is a very clear symptom of depression. And you need to explore the reason, if there is any reason. Is it a child abuse or is it a depression? Then unexplained physical ailments such as headaches or muscle pains. So these children with depression, they do not know how to say, see, I am depressed, I think I have depression. They will not say that, but they say, I have stomach ache, I feel like vomiting, I have pain here, I have pain there. These are the common bodily symptoms which they will say when they are going through depression. They always complain physically. I cannot breathe. I have breathing problem. I'm sick. Always in a sick role. You may see these children with depression often in sick role, and so they find it difficult to concentrate. They might be sitting quietly in the class, but they are not concentrating. They cannot concentrate. Too many other negative thoughts, feeling worthless, helpless, hopeless. These kind of, I'm not good enough. I'm not, they are not able to cope with the normal stressors of life, not able to concentrate in studies, and they are therefore underperforming in the academics and in their daily living. And even they end up having thoughts of suicide. They may have suicidal thoughts also. So, as a special educator, as a mental health professional, when you see such children, you definitely have to explore, talk to them, see what are the thoughts going through them, or even do they have thoughts of suicide also. So, we need to have a good rapport, we need to talk to these children, give them one-to-one support, and encourage them to write, read, etc. And if necessary, you may refer them to a psychiatrist if things are not able to be handled within yourself. Next, please. Dissociative symptoms. Some of these dissociative symptoms, it's like you see that these children are not here. They are in some other world all the time. They are not in touch with the reality, or sometimes they feel unreal. So this is all dissociative symptoms. Some children are dissociating from the reality, which is often because of some stress, trauma, or something unhappy within themselves. So that is also a negative symptom which is often to be noticed. Next, please. Next. Okay, so now that we have seen some of these mental health problems seen commonly in children and how this is affecting them in their academics, their social life, their future, let us also see what are the protective factors and what are the risk factors, so that we could improve more protective factors for these children who are vulnerable, and we could reduce as much as possible these risk factors. So the protective factors are healthy physical status. Good physical health is important. Then intelligence. If the child has got normal intelligence, that is a very protective factor, but we can't do anything about it. Some children may not have this, but intelligence is definitely a protective factor that will help children from less anxiety and other mental health problems. Relaxed temperament. Children who are generally relaxed, who are not so sensitive, not so anxious, these children are generally protected. Then nurturing parenting style, good parenting, very good nurturing, supportive parents are definitely a protective factor. We could really advise parents to give them very good backing, especially for the vulnerable children, so that they feel safe and they are less anxious. And supervision and support from the teachers, from the parents, and parental education. Educated parents tend to be more careful to support their children, and socio-economic advantage, better economic status is an advantage. Good friends, and safe schools, child-friendly schools, then participation in the recreational activities. If you encourage children to participate in recreational activities and helping them to have good friends, buddy improving the buddy systems in the school, all these are protective factors that will help these children to get integrated to the mainstream. And risk factors: preterm babies, low birth weight babies, poor physical health. Some ethnic group tend to be less social and they tend to have more mental disorders within them. And peer and family relationship, some are risk factors, like some peer bad influence of peer group, and also some family relationship which are very toxic, like domestic violence, abusive family. It's not good. That is a risk factor. Then parental mental health status, like suppose the mother is going through depression or schizophrenia, or the father, anybody have a mental health problem, anybody have an addiction problem in the family, is definitely going to affect the mental health of the child also. Then substance abuse, as I just mentioned, then some drugs, some medications are also risk factor if the child is already on some medication. Then family violence, these are all risk factors. So there are certain risk factors which we could really avoid by counseling the parents, giving them good backing, avoiding certain bad influences, etc. Next slide, please. So, coming to a conclusion, knowing that mental health is affecting the children in mental health problems are affecting them in many ways, and we know which are the vulnerable group, we know the risk factors, we know the protective factors, and also we should know what is preventing elders from helping these children. So one is the distance to the care. Like they don't know where to go, and even if they want to go, they may have to wait for the treatment long time. Some places I know that children get dates for after 1 year or after so many months. By the time the child is already developing so many symptoms, by the time the child is already having many other comorbidities. So poor access to the mental health care itself is a problem that is aggravating these problems for the children. So waiting for treatment and the stigma of mental illness, that is very major problem. Like even if the child needs help, even if you guys will explain to the parents, they may not take the children to a psychologist or a counselor. They may not take them to a psychiatrist because it is a stigma. They don't want their children to be known as having a label of mental health problem. So therefore, they just do not take them, they keep it covered, and at the end, if it is not treated properly, it is going to really blow out into a huge problem for the child in the future. So early intervention is so important, but because of the stigma, it is not happening. The lack of parental knowledge of available resources. So there you could really help. You could call the parent, explain to them where to go, what to do, what are the available resources for them. Then parental psychosocial functioning. Suppose the parents are already, as I mentioned, who are depressed, addicted, they have poverty, they have chronic illness, then they cannot take these children to the right place. That also prevents these children from getting the help at the right time. Then child abuse, abusing the children, such people don't care to take them for any help. And family problems. Many children go through a lot of family problems that they are not able to take them to the right place. They are too troubled within themselves, the family members, that they don't have time to help the child or give the child the support necessary or give them the educational support necessary. So that also prevents these children from getting the right help when they are going through mental health problems. So we are coming to the end of this session. Next slide, please. So I have put up some references. We may go through these references if necessary. So thank you so much for listening to the session. Let me know if you have any questions. Ma'am Elizabeth, is there anything you should?
Yes, Marin, I'm here very much.
Yeah.
Yes, participants, ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഉണ്ടോ? എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടോ? എല്ലാവർക്കും ക്ലിയർ ആണോ?
മാം ആ സ്ലൈഡ്സ് കൂടെ കാണിക്കാമോ?
എന്തോ?
സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ഒന്നുകൂടെ കാണിക്കാമോ?
സ്ലൈഡ്സോ?
ഒന്നുകൂടെ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാം.
Dharmi, can you put the slide again?
Okay, ma'am.
So, സുനിത എങ്ങനെയാ വേണ്ടിയ? ജസ്റ്റ് അത് ഓരോന്നോരോന്നായിട്ട് ചെയ്തു പോയാൽ മതിയോ?
മതി മതി.
ഓക്കെ. So Dharmi, skip അടുത്ത slide. Next slide.
Yeah. We are talking about mental health. What is positive mental health? Then, next slide, please. Yeah, we are talking about the statistics about mental health problems in children. Next, please. We talk about the literature review, how this mental health is affecting children throughout their life. What are the different effects of mental health on a child in different aspects of their life, how to reduce their quality of life. Then the various different types of mental health disorders.
Ma'am.
Yes.
സ്ക്രീൻ ഒന്ന് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുമോ? സ്ക്രീൻ
Share ചെയ്യണോ?
Screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Share the screen, please.
ആ ടോപ്പിക് ഒന്നുകൂടെ ഒന്ന് ഡിസ്പ്ലേ ചെയ്ത് കാണിക്കാമോ?
മതിയോ? Yes, next slide.
Yeah. So then these are the vulnerable groups. Who are these people who tend to have more chances for mental health problems? Next, please. We are again trying to highlight that the learning children with academic problems also may have more mental health problems. Next. And we are now talking about various types of mental health disorders and how to identify whether these disorders are with the children, because you are dealing with children. So what are the dialogues the children may say so that you understand that they are going through some anxiety disorder. Next, please. So then again about acute stress disorder, what are the symptoms you see? Next, please. What is obsessive compulsive disorder? Trying to explain about that. Next, please. These are the symptoms you may see with the child. If they have an OCD, one of these symptoms might be noticeable. Next. Then we talk about attention deficit hyperactive disorder and the treatment and parent training programs, etc. Types of ADHD. Then this is about oppositional defiant disorder. What are the symptoms you normally see for ODD? Next. Then we are talking about conduct disorder, signs, symptoms, the treatment. Then we are talking about the depression seen in children, how to identify if the child has a depression, so that you can refer them. We talk about dissociative symptoms. Next. Then we are coming towards the protective factor and the risk factor, so that anything you could improve in the child's life, so that the child is more protected from the mental health problems, because we are improving their quality of life of the child, giving them more stable environment, reducing some of these risk factors so that the protective environment is improved. Next. Now we are talking about what are the different barriers, different obstructions that prevent the children from getting mental health care. And the reference, and that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, welcome, Sunita.
Okay.
Thank you.
വേറെ ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും അറിയണോ? Anybody else?
Ma'am, I have one question to Mary,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are, okay,
Yeah.
ma'am, you are a behavior analyst, right?
Yes.
So, ma'am, you may have observed many behavioral problems which are very problematic to others, even to self also, like how we observe in our intellectual disability kids. So, what type of strategies you will use to assess? I mean, you will take assessment first, and after that, you will use some of the strategies to modify the behavior, right? So, how
Yes.
you will plan this modification time? I mean, how long you need to modify which is a problematic behavior to appropriate behavior.
Okay.
So can you just
Yes, I will explain.
Yes,
For example, suppose you see a child banging his head on the wall. Okay, whenever he needs something, he starts crying, and then he will go and bang his head on the wall.
yes,
And then the teacher or the students are scared, and somehow you just give in to his demands. So if this is happening, and you see that sometimes the child is hurting himself, he's going and banging his head, so you will do an ABC analysis. That
Yes,
is the so antecedent, behavior, and consequent. The normal procedure. There are a lot of analysis and assessments we do, but very, very common one is ABC. That is, you observe the child for about 1 hour, or you observe the child throughout the day, depending on your availability, and you see whether the head banging is happening or not. So in the the antecedent, you are just trying to observe what happened just before the behavior of banging the head. So you see that the child approached somebody for something, and that was not given, and immediately he's going and banging the head. So that is the antecedent, and then the behavior is banging the head. So then what happened immediately? Because he's banging so hard, the child got scared, or the teacher got scared, and he or she is going to give the thing immediately to the child. Or the teacher asked a question and the child doesn't know how to answer, and he goes and bang. So that means the function of the behavior. You observe 3 times head banging. Each time you know that any kind of demand is asked to the child, and the child wants to escape it, so he goes and bang the head, and immediately he escapes from the behavior. Like he wants something, he bangs the head, he gets it. So that is the function of the behavior. Now, escape is the function of the behavior. So what do? You want to remove the head banging, right? You want to stop the head banging. So you are going to, let's say, he's going to bang the head, but still you are going to be there and trying to prevent his head from being banged, but you are going to make him do certain things. For example, he wanted chocolate, and he did not get the chocolate, so he is going to bang the head. So you go and stand near the wall, and you are not allowing the child to bang the head, but you are showing him a toy, you are showing him something else to distract him from that. Okay, so he is not getting the chocolate, but at the same time you are not allowing him to bang the head, because you are doing some precautions to avoid the banging of the head, and you are distracting him into something else, so that is not happening. So every time when he goes to bang the head, you are doing some other precautions just so that you modify the behavior which you want to avoid, and you are distracting him to something. And suppose you are asking him to pick up a ball and he doesn't like that and he goes and bangs. So you will encourage the child, take him with you and make him actually pick up the ball even while you are also holding his hand. And when he picks the ball, you say, "Oh, very good, you did a good job," and you give him something positive as a reward. So that next time for the reward, he starts working for you. So different types of escape behaviors is prevented through our behavior protocols. And that is how on a repeated strategies, if you are taking a repeated strategy for about, let's say, 1 month like this, he slowly start reducing the banging of the head. And if you take the data, you will see that nowadays he doesn't bang the head, or very few times he's banging the head. But the most important thing is, just like how we take the medicine, the behavior is modification is also like a medicine. We need to be very strict with following the instruction. Like once you are doing the protection and all these things, and the next time you are just not taking care of it, then the behavior will not be modified. It keeps on going. So yeah, so I hope you understood what the strategy.
That
This is
means you can reduce the behavior, right? You can reduce the intensity of the behavior, maybe I can say.
you can reduce, and sometimes it can be totally taken away also. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Ravina.
Anybody else? I think behavior management is a vast area which
yes,
we have plenty of doubts are there with regard to controlling behavior problems in children with special needs. I think we can have a separate CRE program on it, and we can call Merin to address the entire. All the 3 days or 5 days, how many hour sessions we can have engage you. I think
sure,
you are such an expert in that area.
Always happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Merin. And anybody else with any of your doubts? See, we have an expert here. Make use of the opportunity that you have got to clear your doubts. Merin can explain even very well in Malayalam.
Yeah, തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും.
ഡൗട്ട്സ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മലയാളത്തിലാണെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കാം കേട്ടോ. യു ഡോണ്ട് ഫീൽ ബാഡ്. അയ്യോ, നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ എങ്ങനെയാ ചോദിക്കുക അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ വിചാരിക്കരുതേ. എല്ലാ ഭാഷയും എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. ഇവിടെ വരുന്ന എല്ലാ എക്സ്പേർട്സും ദേ ആർ വെൽ വേഴ്സ്ഡ് ഇൻ മലയാളം. ആർക്കും ഒന്നും വേണ്ട, അറിയണ്ട.
Which is the assessment tool that you use for assessment?
Okay. In that case, Arpita, you can say a few words to thank Merin.
There was one question here, which is the assessment tool.
Yes.
See, for behavior, because there is functional analysis of a behavior, so there are various standard functional analysis behavior modification tools are available in the internet also. You may go through that. Even FAS, functional analysis itself, is a behavior tool for just to see the function of the behavior and then to modify the behavior. Okay, then CBCL, child behavior checklist, is there just to see if the behavior problems come in which section. So that is available again in the internet. You can go through that. There are many other tools available. If you want, I can give you those names of these tools later. But ABC is a very simple tool which you can use all the time. It's just 3 columns: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Please suggest some courses on behavior modification. Actually, board certified behavior analyst is a US certified licensed behavior analyst course. So they have registered behavior technician, they have BCBA, BCABA. These are 2-3 different types of qualifications available. So it's not so difficult to be an RBT, but as you go to the higher level, so I am actually finished my BCBA course, like course, everything. Now I am sitting for the licensing exam. You need to have supervision for so many hours and all that. So just waiting for my exam now. So that is actually you get that from India. There is this behavior momentum by Smita Avasti. She is giving you this training, but I have done from Florida. There is lot of places where you have this RBT courses. Even in our center, this Rita Peshwaria Center is also giving RBT courses when my supervisor comes from the US, from Canada. So those who are interested may contact me so that when she is coming here for supervision, you can attend the course for RBT and write the exam. You have to write an online exam in Pearson View, and if you pass that exam, you will be an RBT. Yeah.
That's a
Anybody?
very, very nice information that you have shared, Marine.
Yes, ma'am.
Participants, did you all hear what she has shared? കോട്ടയത്തിരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഒരു ബിഹേവിയർ അനലിസ്റ്റ് ആകാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു വഴിയാണ് പറഞ്ഞു തന്നത്. Yes, even others from outside Kerala also can join the course.
Yeah.
Can contact Dr. Marine. Yes, any other doubts?
We are happy to do that, ma'am. Really happy for sharing this knowledge. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, Lynette. Thank you. So nice to hear from you.
Welcome, Sister Lynette.
Thank you.
Yes, any other query from your side, participants' side?
Ma'am, if anybody wants to do this RBT course, please give them my number or something if they need, because somebody was asking here.
Okay, I can share your number.
Sure. So that the supervisor comes from Canada, and that time you can attend the coursework when she's here.
Yes, you can do that. We can do that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, so then Arpita, you can say a few words of gratitude to Dr. Marine.
Yes, ma'am, actually, I have a question. I hope, is it okay if I ask you one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I was just wondering about the long-term impacts of children with mental health issues at the school age when it goes unaddressed, and when they go into adulthood, what are the long-term impacts of that?
Yeah, as I have mentioned, this is going to affect their higher education. They may find it difficult to, because of the academic challenges, they may not get enough marks to sometimes go into good colleges, or maybe even go for a higher education. So many children may find it difficult to go into professional courses if they are having mental issues which is not addressed in the early time. And even if they go into higher education, some of these too much of anxiety issues, OCDs, obsessive compulsive problems, when they become professional, that may hinder them from being effective. For example, suppose even if you become a doctor, if you have this obsession that you take too much time to examine a patient, or you start washing your hands 100 times before you are checking the patient, then people start being, you become a very ineffective doctor, or then that is going to affect your profession. That is going to, or if you don't have the enough higher education, your earning capacity is going to reduce. So generally, if a child is having mental health issues which is not addressed, it is going to spiral down him into the lower strata of the society. Knowingly or unknowingly, because of the poor financial status, poor job opportunity, poor academic performance, he may spiral down into a lower strata. I hope I understood, Arpita.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. That was helpful. Thank you so much, ma'am. And one more, the RBT course, is there a minimum requirement of like a master's or a degree? Do
No,
you
no,
need a
no.
psychology degree or?
No, no. For just an RBT, for a registered behavior technician, you just have to finish your 12th is enough. But the English standard should be reasonably good because their English, when you write the online examination, it's a little difficult to understand the language and to do it fast. So English proficiency, I think, is definitely important because that is one thing I have found that many times with some special educators or some people from other profession who came to do the RBT who doesn't have proper English are finding difficult to pass. So that is one issue which I saw. But otherwise, if you are finishing your DEd, if you are finishing your +2, that is enough for becoming an RBT. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for clearing my doubts and for the wonderful session. It was very informative, and I really liked how you gave examples of things, practical things to look out for a child to recognize the mental health issues they may have. It was very informative. I'm sure we all learned a lot from it today. So thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you, Arpita, and thank you, Elizabeth, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Merin. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, participants, today we are in time. We have completed our sixth session by 12:41. And I have few announcements to be made. So the next session will be at 2 o'clock. So you can have a small nap if you want, and you can come back by 1:50. You log into the site by 1:50 so that you will be there in time for the next session. And before that, I would like to announce that I would like to meet the following participants. Meeting is not possible. You can call me one by one. Jijo, Ashwati, Vidya, Josmi, Shanu, Sonu, Sabita, and Ranjini. See, these participants, please call me after 1 o'clock. Call me after 1 o'clock. It's urgent. I would like to clarify certain things with you all. Hello? Yeah. Yes. illappa. Venappa. Okay. So now you can go for lunch. Should I read the names again? എനിക്ക് കാണേണ്ടിയത് ജിജോ അശ്വത് കാണേണ്ടിയതല്ല യു കോൾ മീ ഓക്കെ എനിക്ക് ജിജോ അശ്വതി വിദ്യ ജോസ്മി ഷാനു സോനു സബിത ആൻഡ് രഞ്ജിനി നിങ്ങൾ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ആൾക്കാരൊക്കെ ആഫ്റ്റർ 1 o'clock എന്നെ ഒന്ന് കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്യണം. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് അർജന്റ് കേട്ടോ, മറന്നുപോലെ. ഐ ഓൾ ഹിയർ? ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ആരെങ്കിലും കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിലും നിങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ കൂട്ടുകാരെങ്കിലും ഈ ഗ്രൂപ്പിൽ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഒന്ന് കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്യണം. ബിക്കോസ് ഐ കാൺ കോൾ യു, ഓരോരുത്തരെയായിട്ട് വിളിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കാൻ സമയമില്ല. അത് കാരണമാണ് ഞാനിങ്ങനെ കോമൺ ആയിട്ട് ഐ എം അനൗൺസിങ് ഹിയർ so that you can contact me at the earliest. Maybe call me after 1 o'clock. Okay?
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, very good.